Thank you to each of you. I'm humbled by the task ahead of me. I'm grateful for the trust that each of you have bestowed upon me. I'm mindful of your work and the work of those who came before me. I also want to thank those who I met at my first conclave. Kurt Carlson, Frank Ruck, Don McCleary, and Jim Robeson. God, I wish you had met them. They were great guys. You would have loved them all. They were everything you wish you could be, every brother, every dad that you wished you had. I want to thank our immediate past grand presidents. To Archie Yates, who brought a calm sense of wisdom and advice and a strong hand on the elimination of hazing. To Jim Robeson, who taught all of us a thing or two about what it means to carry on with courage and commitment in the face of personal adversity. To Steve Shanklin, who told us to hold on for a second, get back on track, and develop a strategic course for the future. To Ed Hammond, who reminded us of our partnership with higher education and our real value to an undergraduate's future. And to my friend and mentor, Bill Tragos, who hit us over the head until we understood that every SigEp is a balanced man, that every chapter could be in the Phi Beta Kappa wheelhouse, that our entire fraternity could be men who believe in virtue and diligence and brotherly love. Men who were committed to living a life of sound mind, sound body, willing to make tough decisions, go against the grain, stand up for what we believe in, and be different. Bill's an amazing guy, 74 years old, starts every day with about 1 million push-ups, drives us all crazy now that he knows how to use email, and called me last week to brag that he now looked more empowered since he had started manscaping. Edit. But mostly, I want to say thank you to Mike Williams, who I met by accident 20 years ago, who I randomly learned was a SigEp, and who encouraged me to come back, take another look, and see that SigEp had become the fraternity of the future. I will always remember that first meeting. Here I was on a nude beach in St. Bart's, and as Mike introduced himself to me as the incoming president of SigEp, all I could think of was how little it took. Now take a look around you. The guy sitting next to you. Someday you're going to look at him and realize that you've been friends for life. He'll be the best man at your wedding. He'll be the godfather to your kids. He'll have your back when you're shipped off to Iran or Afghanistan. He'll be the first to buy you a beer when you get home. And that's when you'll really understand that your fraternity is about friends. Finding them, making them, and holding on to them for the rest of your life. To all of my friends who are here tonight, to my friends who are no longer with us, to my friend Chuck White, who never gave up on me, thank you. And to each of you, you are the reason, you are the inspiration, you are the motivation for all of us to do more. Over the past few days, I've been grilled by your nominating committee. That's a great and unique SigEp policy where the undergraduates decide who is going to run the fraternity. They asked me where I thought we could improve, where I thought we should change, where I thought we were falling behind. Let me share with you what I shared with them. We have great numbers. 14,000 undergraduate members, average chapter size, the largest of any fraternity. 280,000 men have chosen SigEp, ranks third only behind Sigma Chi and SAE. We now have the highest national GPA of any fraternity. A third of our chapters are in the Phi Beta Kappa wheelhouse. And our leadership program, EDGE, CLA, RUC, Conclave, and the Tragos Quest to Greece are unparalleled. Those are all great and amazing facts, but I think we have a problem. Too often we look at the facts and we forget the face. Too often we forget that facts don't mean anything if they aren't evaluated from the heart. Now don't get me wrong, it isn't that facts and figures don't matter, but I'm reminded that Jefferson wrote a great essay where he conducted a debate between his brain and his heart. In the end, his heart won, just like it did to become the symbol of Sigma Phi Epsilon. Over the next 2 years, let's remember that this is about you and the brothers sitting next to you, not some faceless number on a list. Over the next 2 years, let's remember that this is a fraternity, not a Fortune 500 company. And our symbol is a heart, not a calculator. In my lifetime, I remember someone saying that instead of cursing the darkness, they would rather light a candle of hope. I think you feel the same way. I know that when I walked through the doors of my first conclave in 1991, I rediscovered my fraternity. You have to understand that 20 years earlier, I walked away from a fraternity that was a little to the right of Attila the Hun. I worked in an industry where yo mo fo was considered a complete sentence. And then I walked into conclave. I saw 1,000 guys like you, and I saw a fraternity that believed in faith and family, fitness, friends, fortitude, fair play, scholarship, and leadership. I walked in and saw a fraternity where I could look around the room and honestly say that I was looking out at a future president of the United States. Someone in this room tonight is going to be a senator. Over there is the future CEO of Google. One of you is going to find the cure for cancer, or multiple sclerosis, or AIDS. Each of you is a leader, a scholar, an athlete, and a brother. I'm not sure that you know how great you are. I'm definitely sure you don't know how great you could be. Let's talk about how we make that happen. I think there are some easy things that we can do starting tomorrow. First off, let's remember that just like it says in our bylaws, our regional directors are here to help our chapters, not be the national dues police. Let's remember that it's better to keep a chapter instead of close a chapter. Let's remember that if they were good enough to be brothers in the first place, how did they suddenly become the black sheep of the family? Years ago, we figured out that every time we close a chapter, it would cost us over $50,000. Now it's probably more. So instead of casually losing that money, let's invest in an RD team that actually goes in and helps save a chapter with help in recruiting or academics or leadership skills. Let's remember that we're not playing a game of survivor. SigEp is playing a game of success. And if we do have consistently bad chapters, then maybe we should look at where we're expanding. Maybe we should set the bar higher and focus on those schools that really do lead the way for all of us. Let's focus on Brown and Harvard, Boston, Butler, and DePaul. If we really are the leaders, then let's make sure we have chapters at the schools that lead. And if we consistently find that our academic standards are slipping, then let's think again about attempts to lower our standards. Instead, let's raise them. Expand our resident scholar program. Assist our chapters in recruiting faculty fellows. Remember that we have a residential learning community program that works, especially if we put more money behind it and help it grow. You don't improve your running time by making the track shorter. We shouldn't be doing the same with academics. There are other priorities that will take a little more time, that will take all of us working together to learn from our past. In 1959, an undergraduate named Bruce Hazenkamp eliminated race restrictions in our bylaws. As a result, he returned to his chapter and he initiated the first African-American member of a national fraternity, who went on to become Secretary of Commerce, Ron Brown. 40 years later, our undergraduate delegates introduced similar legislation, so membership was no longer based on sexual orientation. These actions were long before any government action to make any changes. These actions are indicative of SigEp always being on the cutting edge and leading the way. These actions are indicative of our belief that to lead a diverse world, You are better served by living in a diverse world. I pledged in the summer of 1966. I was at an illegal frat party. I walked in. I saw an Academy Award on the mantle of the fireplace where they were holding the party, and I was hooked. That was the depth of my investigation into Sigma Phi Epsilon. Little did I know that they were going to beat the heck out of me for the next 6 months. But also little did I know that when I arrived on campus that fall, I was criticized by some of my friends because I had joined a fraternity with brothers who were Jews. All I did was join a fraternity that was a reflection and a continuation of my childhood, my neighborhood, my family, and our family beliefs. I didn't know that SigEp already stood alone. I didn't know that it was a big deal. Years ago, when I spoke at my first CLA, I said that to truly be a SigEp, you had to be willing to take risks, swim against the tide, and most of all, you had to have big cojones. They waited several years before they invited me to speak again. But what was important that night was the number of Hispanic brothers who were translating for their Anglo roommates. I realized I really was speaking to a truly diverse group of leaders: Hispanic, Asian, African American, Jewish, all colors, all creeds, Republicans, Democrats, straight, gay, and all of them brothers. Yep, SigEp is different. The world is different. And you can't truly lead if you don't understand and embrace those differences. But look around the room tonight. How diverse are we? Have we truly embraced the concept, or have we just made it a great advertising slogan? Let's make it a priority. Let's look at this room 2 years from now and be able to honestly say that SigEp is different. Let's remember that many of us are first-generation Americans who are living the American dream by joining the best fraternity in America. Let's remember that some of our strongest chapters and our strongest brothers are those who are sharing in the American dream for the first time. 2 years from now, let's look back and say that we opened our doors and opened our hearts to those whose only dream is to make SigEp stronger. And speaking of doors, let's also open the doors of Richmond and welcome our alumni brothers who want to volunteer. Rightly or wrongly, there is a perception amongst many that the doors of Richmond are closed to all but a chosen few. Over the next 2 years, let's make that change. You know we have a problem with volunteers. The problem is we need them, and we need more of them. We need them for their advice and their wisdom and their life lessons. We need them to help do the work, not just tell someone else what to do. Yep, we have an excellent staff. They work hard, they're paid very little, and they can't do it all. No matter how much money we raise or how much dues we charge, we will probably never have enough money to hire enough people to do everything that we want to do to make the undergraduate experience even better. So let's make a change. We know we have volunteers who are willing to work for free. We just need to reach out and invite them in. We need to give them something meaningful to do. And we need to remember to say thank you for a job well done. Over the next 2 years, let's make that change. Let's open the doors of Richmond and finally say welcome home to everybody. Speaking of doors, we need more of them. We need more SigEp red doors that open up to the state-of-the-art chapter houses. Too often I've heard people moan that building new chapter houses is just too hard, too much money, too much work. Well, let's change that. Let's remember that when sales are down, smart people advertise. When real estate prices are in the dumper, smart people buy it up. Instead of running for cover, now's the time we should be looking for deals, buying or building new houses, and using our resources to get ahead of the pack. Sure, it's a gamble, but it was a gamble to be the first fraternity ever to arrange a national line of credit so we could offer low-interest loans to our chapters. It was a gamble to open our doors to Jewish brothers and Catholic brothers and Chinese brothers and black brothers and Mexican brothers and Cuban brothers. and every other color in the rainbow. SigEp's aren't afraid to gamble, and we gamble smart. So let's use those same smarts to create a financial program that will help our homeless chapters finally find a home. Heck, if the government can figure out a way to give me $4,500 for a piece of junk car, surely we can find a way to get our chapters out of piece of junk houses. 2 years from now, 2 years from now, let's look back at dozens of new construction sites, houses becoming residential learning communities, and shiny new red doors finally saying, welcome home. Let's go back and talk about those volunteer jobs. Of course, there is always a need for volunteers to work with local chapters. There is also a need for volunteers on a national level to serve as facilitators at EDGE, staff at CLA, mentors on the Quest to Greece, teachers at Ruck, and speakers at Conclave. And if those don't rock your boat, volunteer to serve on a national committee. There are already 7 national committees. I think we need a lot more. And on every one of those national committees, there should be an adequate representation of undergraduates. Now, I can already hear the rumblings in the room. Yeah, I'd love to be on a national committee, but I'm not part of the crowd that has ever asked to be on a national committee. Well, I think we need to change that. Let's copy what some Let's copy what some companies started years ago, and over the next 2 years, let's conduct our business in transparency. Let's post all those volunteer opportunities online. Let's ask for applications online, and let's put the results online. And while we're working on transparency, let's announce our national board meetings well enough in advance and invite everyone to attend. Let's make sure everyone knows when our committees are meeting and that they're welcome. Let's put our national calendar online so directors and trustees and district governors and committee members and volunteers and undergraduates know about meetings and events before they happen instead of reading about them after the fact on the blog. Over the next 2 years, let's change the way we communicate so everyone feels part of the process instead of feeling part of the problem. Communication. We all communicate about it, we just forget to do it. Well, let's change that. Let's communicate so much and so often that Richmond starts to get phone calls begging them to stop instead of begging them for more. And let's stop communicating just with each other. Sure, we brag to each other about how many chapters we have and how many new members we have and how smart we are. We just never tell anyone else. And when anything goes wrong, we're the first ones to duck and cover and wait for the dust to clear. Sometimes I think we've spent 100 years building the best fraternity in the world and less than 100 minutes telling anyone about it. I think it's time we tell our story. We've created programs and courses that are second to none. We have the best staff, the best foundation, the best volunteers, and most of all, we have you. I think it's time that we brag a little. I think it's time that we aggressively let the world know that the hammered frat boy is a thing of the past. I think it's time that we stake our claim as the leaders our founders dreamed about. I think it's time that we welcome other fraternities who want to copy our programs, our policies, and our success. Let's change the way we communicate. Let's be proactive instead of reactive. And when everything hits the fan, let's be the first ones to call CNN instead of hiding under the covers and hoping the phone doesn't ring. And since we're looking at when we communicate, let's take a look at how we communicate. We all know we have a great journal. Every other Greek organization is jealous, and that's terrific. But for an organization that is focused on undergraduates, maybe we need to catch up. Yes, for alumni, parents, university leaders, the journal is perfect. But for everyone else, for you, we need to take a look at Facebook and blogs, webcasts, podcasts, online interactive communication. And yes, Archie, over the next 2 years, I'm going to teach you how to tweet. He's up there right now. Elaine, what'd she say? He say tweet? I was told tonight that I could not use profanity. Fortunately, I checked earlier and confirmed that cojones was totally acceptable and didn't count. Go too far, and they said Mom Noni would appear from the wings and bitch slap me with a dinner napkin. So I am left with only one race card, and that card is sales. I know, call the paramedics, bring in the tanks. Some of our brothers are already in a panic and heading for the door. But the truth is, we really do need to talk about sales. I know sometimes we call it recruitment, sometimes we call it expansion, and some people think that sales is a dirty word. Well, maybe it was a dirty word for Chrysler and Eddie Bauer and Microsoft. Well, it sure wasn't for Apple and Ford and Google. And it shouldn't be for us. If we really have a product that we believe in, and I know we do, we should be proud to sell it, or if you prefer, share it with someone else. We should be proud that we are the largest fraternity in the world. We should be proud that we are the largest fraternity on campus. And we should be proud to share our fraternity with others. So let's put sales back on our list of goals. Let's teach our brothers how to sell our programs and our possibilities. Let's stand up and be proud of our success. Nope. I don't want to be the largest by being the only fraternity. I want to be the largest because we are the best fraternity. We will be stronger. We will be stronger not because we are the only ones standing, but because we are standing and leading the way. So over the next 2 years, let's take sales off the list of dirty words. Let's redeem it, demand it, and let's do it. I think we have another problem. In another year or two, many of you are going to forget about us. Your priorities are going to change. Instead of worrying about your chapter house, you're going to start worrying about buying your own house, getting a job, starting a real life. And you'll forget that your fraternity could help you with all of those. You might not think you need us, but I promise you that we will still need you. I know that we can't just ask you to stay in the house because you're a good guy. And yes, I know we have a 4-year development program. But over the next 2 years, let's make sure that we offer a program that is so tempting that you have to stay. Let's offer internships and fellowships and job opportunities. Let's be a resource on how to get a car, find an apartment, negotiate a lease, get your own health insurance, get a SigEp credit card and a bank account at a SigEp bank. Let's make sure you know how to create a resume, get an interview, and land that job once you get through the door. Let's keep you in the house because you want to stay, not only to help your younger brothers, but also to help yourself. When you get back to your house, I know you're going to be fired up and ready to fly. You're going to recruit more, study more, work out more, probably party more. You're going to have what we call the conclave buzz that will hopefully last a long time. But there's a part of conclave that is sometimes forgotten. It's our ritual. It ties us together no matter what. And in that ritual, I quote a statement that is often overlooked. It says, "In times of happiness, a man needs a brother to rejoice with him. In times of sorrow, he needs a brother to console him. When he fails, he needs a brother to forgive him. And when he is alone, to offer him friendship." Let's remember, these past few months, these past few years have been rough on a lot of people. Our country, our brothers, been hit with countless worries and fears. Money, jobs, war, taking a pounding on all of us. Brothers have been stressed out and worn out. Things have happened that shouldn't have happened. Words have been said that shouldn't have been said. Well, let's change that. As brothers, let's get back to work and focus again on what's right, not on what's wrong. As brothers, let's remind each other that SigEp has always been a safe haven, a welcoming home, a place that offers hope and help and heart. As brothers, let's remind our staff that even though we all bitch and moan, and probably will continue to do so, we believe in them and laud their commitment to our fraternity. And lastly, let's remember that we all joined SigEp because we wanted to build each other up, not tear each other down. I imagine that some of you might be asking yourselves how we are going to do all these things, to pull back the curtain on Richmond, to raise the bar on academic excellence, to sell our programs and promise to others, to encourage sound minds and sound bodies, to build real homes for our chapters, to welcome volunteers, to make our programs consistent, our communication effective, and our hearts filled with kindness and compassion. I imagine that some of you might think we might fail. Well, that's okay. I imagine that someone also thought that our founders would fail. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not comparing myself to our founders. I'm comparing you. And I believe you can achieve everything. We might not be Marshall, but we are SigEp. For a moment, I want you to imagine how different our world would be if Rosa Parks had settled for the middle of the bus. Imagine how different our world would be if Bruce Hazenkamp had settled for less than equal for Ron Brown. Imagine how different our world would be if Frank Ruck had settled for only half the Balanced Man program. Or Jim Robeson said we didn't need to save for a rainy day. Or Clark Byron said we didn't need decent houses. Or Don McCleary said it was okay to discriminate against gay kids. Or Bill Trago said you could be in the Phi Beta wheelhouse with only a 2.0. All of our greatness has come from setting the bar high. The middle? Well, that's just the place we pass on the way to our destiny. I want you to go home and tell that to your chapters. Tell them to never settle for the middle of the bus. Never, ever settle for the middle of the bus. Remember who you are, SigEp's. You are Sigma Phi Epsilon, and settle is not in your vocabulary. Tonight, I've tried to talk to you from my heart about the heart of our fraternity. Like you, I believe in sound mind and sound body. Like you, I'm always academically curious and will never stop. Like you, I believe in living a balanced life of virtue, diligence, and brotherly love. And I owe all of that to our fraternity. But most of what I owe are the lifelong friends who share those beliefs. To me, they are not just a number out of 280,000. They are not just a grade point average. They are not just the average number of guys in a chapter. They're not just someone who pays their dues. They're not just someone who donates money or time. They are my brothers. Earlier tonight, I mentioned my dad. He grew up with nothing. Started driving a truck when he was 11. And worked forever so his kids could live the American dream. I think many of you had dads who did the same thing. I wish they all could be here tonight. When my dad died, and when I was packing up his things at the hospital, I opened up his wallet and found a crumpled piece of paper that had been there, obviously, for many, many years. Now, I never thought my dad was a religious man. And I was surprised when I unfolded the paper and started to read. Here's what it said. Dear Lord, please find me a few friends who understand me and yet remain my friend. A work to do which has real value, without which the world would feel the poor. A mind unafraid to travel, even though the trail be not blazed. An understanding heart. A sense of humor. Time for quiet, silent meditation. A feeling of the presence of God. The patience to wait for the coming of these things, and the wisdom to know when they come. My wisdom tells me that I have found those friends, and together we can blaze that trail. What an honor it is to be looking out at all of them tonight. When you return to your chapters, I hope that each of you can look around a room full of your friends I hope that each of you returns to your chapter as a leader with cojones, ready to dream the impossible, inspire the indifferent, conquer the invincible, and achieve the unachievable. Remember, you're here tonight because you are different. You are a SigEp. I'm honored to serve you. Thank you. God bless you.